Good morning everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lena and I make college and book related content here on YouTube, and today will be another college day in my life. Today, it is almost 8 o'clock. I'm about to head to breakfast with a friend, and then I'll go to the library to get a lot of work done because I don't actually have classes on Tuesdays. I work on Tuesdays, but I don't have to go to any courses, so I will be doing a lot of homework, getting that stuff done, and then also prepping for lab tonight that I teach, and then also my work in the writing center tonight. So that's kind of today, not a super exciting day, but a lot of work needs to get done. So we'll get into that later, but first I'll show you my outfit. And yes, I'm like speaking super fast because I am running late to breakfast, but I'm just wearing this like flowy long sleeve top. I thrifted it, but I believe it's from like the Liz Claiborne line at Kohl's or something, or JCPenney. Honestly, I don't remember. And then just my L Bean fleece, L Bean jeans. But yes, let's get going. This morning in the library, I was working on my Anne of Brittany project and basically writing a chunk of my essay or final product, and I really regretted not bringing a hair tie with me to the library because I thought I'd put an elastic on my wrist before I left, and turns out I hadn't, and my hair was driving me nuts. But I did end up being very productive in the library and getting a lot done, and also reading more of this book that I've been meaning to read for a while, which is the book of the City of Women, so that was good. So I am now back in my room after lunch. It's 12:30. I took about like a 30-ish minute break. When I was in the dining hall, I actually saw some of my residents, so I stayed and chatted with them for a little bit, which was great. And then I just came back here, and I am now just trying to get the motivation to go back and do some homework. I went to the library earlier than I usually do this morning. I usually show up at the library between 8:45 and 9 in the mornings, and I showed up at like 8:20 this morning, just because of when I got lunch with my friend. So I'm not lunch, breakfast. So I was at the library for a little longer than normal, and I did a lot of writing for Anne of Brittany. And even when I wasn't writing, I was doing a lot of thinking and trying to formulate my ideas. So it's very taxing because obviously all of that is in French. So my brain just feels very fuzzy now, and like I really don't want to do anything for a little bit. But I do have quite a few things I need to do. I need to finish prepping the lab. The French class that I teach a lab for had a midterm this week on 3 chapters, and so I am going to do a review session and kind of go over all the different grammar points and kind of answer any questions they may have and do some activities that will help them practice those grammar points a little more and clarify any issues they may have. And then I also need to finish up, and I have about like a paragraph and some of another paragraph that I need to write before I can send it to my professor for her to review. And I also probably should do some work on Middlemarch, to be honest. I am supposed to be working on my thesis for that, and the last time I met with my professor, we discussed kind of like a brainstorm of different thesis ideas and topics to cover, and I have a general sense of like a direction I want to go in, but I am supposed to meet with my professor this week with a rough draft of my thesis, so that's not done. So I think I should probably do a little bit of work on that today. I also want to make sure I have time to work out, and obviously I have wind ensemble practice this afternoon. So I have a lot of things that need to be done. Will they all get done today? Honestly, I don't know. The priority is to get the lab like finally prepped and finish and then from there we'll just see what time I have. I think honestly right now I'm gonna spend like the next 20-ish minutes just kind of resituating myself, checking off the things that I've done, kind of figuring out how I want this afternoon to play out, and then hopefully around like 1 o'clock or so I'll be able to get back into the swing of things. That being said, I'll show you the books I checked out of the library this morning. With the start of the semester, I've really not had a lot of time to do personal reading, and I've also been struggling to find books that I want to read. So I know that last month, at the end of last month, I started, I think it's called In the Dream House. I'll put like a picture right here, and it's a memoir, so that's part of the problem. I'm not a huge memoir person, but I'm just like struggling to like be invested in books. And so I am always going to the browsing collection in our library to like see if they have any new books and like see if anything's sparking my interest, because I'm just like so burnt out with all of like the Shakespeare that I'm reading and all of the Jane Austen that I'm reading, so I really want like a different flavor. So that would probably be more like contemporary literature. And so I'm really trying to find something to read. So I saw last night, actually, when I was printing off stuff for my Shakespeare class, that they had Bronze Drum by Phong Nguyen. And I actually wanted to get this book for my book of the month, I think maybe in August. I don't quite remember what month they had it. But I ended up not getting it because I was trying to pull back on how much I was getting book of the month, save money. And I saw that they had this book, so I'm really excited to read it. This is set in ancient Vietnam, and it's about two sisters who basically are part of the army, and they're kind of like lead this like army of women. I think it sounds really interesting and fascinating. And I also am just interested in kind of like learning a little bit because I don't know a ton about when this is set and kind of the Vietnamese like traditions and folklore and things that are included. So I'm looking forward to that, hopefully. And then I've never heard of this book, but it caught my eye. It's called The Mermaid of Black Conch by Monique Roffey. And this is also a newer release. And honestly, I don't know much about it. And I just know it's like about a mermaid, and it's kind of like magical realism, folklore vibes. It's set in the 1970s when a fisherman discovers a mermaid, and they kind of fall in love. So it sounds very whimsical and very interesting and kind of romantic. And it also apparently deals with a lot of important like subjects and topics, so I think that will be interesting as well. So hopefully one of these two books will spark my interest in the next week or so, and then I'll also find time to read and prioritize that, because that's something I've been struggling with, is actually prioritizing the reading part of things, because I just have so many other things going on in my mind, and oftentimes I am not prioritizing the things that I should be. That being said, I think I'm going to take, as I said, the next 20 minutes or so, and I think I'll just like start reading either this book or this book and just try to get into them and relax a little bit, and then I'll get back into the lovely amount of work that I have to do today. So yeah, let's get into that. So it is now a little bit after 1 o'clock. I'm about 30 pages into it and I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm definitely not disappointed based on what I thought the book was going to be about. It has a really interesting writing style and it switches back between perspectives and even time. And I think especially the perspective from the mermaid, I think is very interesting in the way that she's portrayed. There's also a really great variety of voice, whether it's using like specific dialects or just like mimicking how people actually talk is really well done, I think. So far I'm really enjoying it, and I will keep you updated on this. So definitely check out my October wrap-up, because hopefully we'll be done with it by the time the month ends, because it is October 18th and I have not read a single book for my personal reading this entire month, and so here's to changing that. And as you just saw, I made another cup of tea because I am trying to find the will to get work done. So I think right now I'm going to read some Persuasion for my Jane Austen class. We're just starting Persuasion. It's the final Jane Austen novel we'll be reading before we move into our research phase of the seminar, and so we have to read the first half of the book for class tomorrow. So I think I'm just going to read a little bit of that, and then I will go back to Anne work. So now I'm going to start working on Anne and just wrapping it up. I am right now writing a paragraph about women's education in the Middle Ages, well, the end of the Middle Ages moving into the Renaissance, specifically in France, and kind of the debate around women receiving an education. And I'm talking about this book that kind of started it. It was called Le Roman de la Rose, and that was written in the 13th century, and then Christine de Pizan was one of the women who responded to that really misogynistic text, and she wrote several books about women's education, women in general, illustrious women through the ages, and things like that. So I have checked up from the library the Book of the City of Ladies. This is the English translation because that's the only version our library has, but then I have downloaded the French version onto my computer. So I typically find the citation that I want in this physical copy just because it's easier for me, and then I go into the French version and find the same like chapter, page, whatever it might be, and then use the actual French version because this is a French project, so that makes sense. And so in this paragraph I'm kind of talking about how in La Cité des Dames, which is this book, how Christine de Pizan kind of lays out this like reasoning about why women aren't afforded the same opportunities for education, why they're prevented from this, and kind of what they could achieve if they were given the same opportunities, which is really interesting. And so she's about 100 years before Anne's time, but that's really setting up the idea for women and education and kind of how Anne interprets that and uses it in her own court. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I need to finish this up, and then the next paragraph I'll be writing will be about the death of Anne's first husband, Charles VIII, and after that I'll be done with this section of the paper, which will feel really great, and then I can move on to the third section of my paper. So that's where that's going. I'm gonna see if I can get this done before 3 p.m., but we'll see what happens. Sometimes I hit roadblocks when I'm writing and it makes it very challenging, but hopefully I can get in the flow and just keep going. So I just changed into some workout clothes. It's a little bit after 3, it's 3:12, so my French thing took a little longer than I wanted to, but I did finish the paragraphs that I wanted to, so I'll probably just reread it once through just to make sure it's kind of coherent, because towards the end there I'm not sure if it was, and then I'll send it to my professor. But in the meantime I just got changed and I'm going to do a quick little in my dorm workout. I already went on a walk this morning, and because I'm short on time I probably won't do that long of a workout, but we'll do like a little bit of HIIT, maybe some abs, something like that, and then I'll stretch and I'll have a little bit of time before wind ensemble to gather myself and calm down before I need to head out to that. So let's do that, and then I will catch up with you all later. The way that I'm running late to wind ensemble right now is completely unacceptable, especially because I just got a text asking me or informing me that I have to play the solos today because the chair one for flute one is not here. So I really need to get going. So I sent my Anne draft to my professor. So glad that that's off my list for today. So glad I accomplished that. That was my number one priority. But now I need to grab my flute and get to wind ensemble. I just banged out my French lab plans tonight. Tonight's artist is Claude Francois. I just decided to have more fun with it just because this is right before their midterm, so nothing too serious. And he's like a pretty iconic French singer. And then we're doing a review for the midterm, as I said before, they have their midterm this week. And we're just gonna kind of do more activity-based things, more games and fun that still like practice the grammar points but aren't so like regurgitative, more like spontaneous and spur of the moment. And then I'll leave space for them to ask questions at the end and we can go over anything that they're not sure about. Hopefully that's a good plan for tonight. I usually don't do so many games in one night, but I'm thinking that games might be an effective way that they aren't able to really use as a study tool when they're outside of lab. So fingers crossed that this works out. But right now I'm ready to head out to lab. And, you know, after lab, I have my writing center job where I'm going to work in the French writing center for an hour. As of now, I only have one appointment. So if I continue to only have one appointment, then I'll just read Persuasion for the rest of the time. If I get another appointment, then I'll just do that kind of stuff for the whole hour. And then I'll be back in my room by 10, just to wrap up the night with any extra work that I might have. So yes, let's get going. So the lighting is terrible, but it is now 10:20. A lot of time has passed, but I did lab and then I stuck around after lab for about 10 minutes, answered questions. Then I ran up to the writing center, did tutoring for an hour. I ended up having 2 appointments, so I did that for the full hour. And then I came back here, kind of wandered around the halls with my residents and talked to them. And then I am back in here debating if I should do homework or not. I might just read a little bit of Persuasion before heading to bed. I'll probably also make a plan for tomorrow and then head to bed. But thank you so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions, book recommendations, video recommendations, whatever it might be, leave it down in the comments below, and I will see you all next week.